Make sure you don't over torque the screws, because since this is only plastic, I pretty much just use it finger tight, and that should be good enough to hold this in place. Make sure all the gaps are closed, especially on this end. Still works. Then you just slip in this silicone boot, making sure all these plastic covers still in there. Should go in without much effort, slow and easy. There we go. So putting back the silicone cover around the charging port is very tricky. And I think the best way to do that is use a small tool. Like in this case, I'm using a flathead micro screwdriver bit. But you could use any small tool, like preferably it's plastic or like a wooden stick. And what you do is you go around the terminal and you just gently push the silicone underneath. And so that's what I did on this side. So it only took me 1 minute to figure that out. So once you get the hang of it, it should be easy. So I'm just pressing this end and pushing the silicone cover around. And just go around it, go around the terminal, making sure that you don't press too hard that you rip the silicone cover. There. That's that. Now I'm putting back this silicone gasket on the drive end. Make sure you put a ton of grease on this end as well, because that's a lot of wear area over here. So this one just pressed in. Next is we put the white plastic cap back on, and it should just slide back in. And you insert the silicone underneath it, making sure that each of these holes line up with the tab underneath it, in order to make sure that it creates a watertight seal. So you just gotta be patient when you put it back on. Press it there. That looks lined up. And then push it back down. Next is Put back the 4 screws on here that holds the white part in place. Finger tight. Nothing more, nothing less. That's how you prevent the threads from stripping. Especially when you're working with plastic. All you need is finger tight. Even though they say you could use this in the shower, I wouldn't immerse this in water because I'm afraid that water could still migrate through these gaps over here. Like over time, these gaps could open up. It's hard to tell how properly sealed this gap is. So I wouldn't submerge this in water or even put it in the shower. I would just wipe it down with a wet cloth if you need to clean it, or if you need to rinse the roller. I would take it out and rinse that. I would never put running water through this, even though there's silicone gasket here on each of these holes and around here. I wouldn't trust that, because you hear a lot of people complain that one day the motor just stops running. It could be the water got in there and rusted out something, rusted the motor or destroyed the battery. So just to be on the safe side, keep it dry. Even though it's a wet and dry tool, I wouldn't get it wet. Next, we put the plastic pieces that go on these ends. So on the red end, you put this plastic or this nylon bushing. So looks like one end is wider than the other. So you put the wider end, the wider opening out. And that thing just slips right in there. Oh, make sure you also put grease in here, inside this, because that's a high wear area. And on this end, you put this gray drive plastic. So you insert the shaft, this square shaft, through the square insert over there. Make sure you grease this one really well, because this is the drive part. So basically it's just plastic that's spinning and it's resting on or rubbing against this white plastic. So you got to make sure that it's well lubricated to prevent or minimize wear. test it out. Next, you just put this plastic, this gray plastic, and you can't make this mistake. It will only go one way. You see the label, faces me, and it goes like this, where the charging terminals are. And you just press that in, and that locks in place down here and on these ends. And that's that. So like I said, make sure you put a lot of grease in this area, because it's a high wear area. There, grease here. And that's it. Then you just put the roller, and we're back in business.